to love. So before we actually introduce everybody, I want to make sure that we are fully live here, and we are. So that's good. Hi, Bridget. So we have everybody just cool. We have 91 viewers so far. We just started. That's good. All right, guys. So as you know, I am Tanya Tenica. I am with Genesis Network. And one of the things that has been, I guess, like a pandemic in itself is marriage and business. Men being able to lead their homes, lead a Proverbs 31 entrepreneurial woman. So because it was so asked about, I went ahead and put some phenomenal brains together and called in for the troops because I was like, I am not hitting this topic on my own. So one thing that I always valued, that I value now more than ever, is the fact that leaders are becoming more educated in trauma. They're becoming more educated in grief. They're becoming more educated as a whole, well-rounded, understanding the natural physical as well as the spiritual. And that's so refreshing, because I remember, years ago or just in general, trying to, get marriage counsel or this or that. And we were always told just to either go to our pastor or, don't get counsel from the world, so don't go to a grief share, or don't do this or don't do that. But I think that we're getting into this place of really being able to get a good mesh of the two. So I have Apostle Brian. You guys should see him on the top somewhere right there. Apostle Brian is the apostle of One Kingdom Ministries, and he's also my spiritual father. So would you really quickly say something, introduce yourself, and then we'll go on to our next guest, and then we'll get into the good stuff. Hello, Lisa, Marissa.
Good evening, everyone. I am Apostle Brian Pleasant, as my lovely daughter has said, of One Kingdom Ministries, and so glad to be a part of this tonight. God bless you.
He's one of those. He doesn't have much to say, but like when he says it, it's good. It's good. All right, Daddy, turn up your volume.
Oh, okay.
And then, hey, Asia. I don't know if you, hey, Angel. I see everybody popping up all over the place. I just definitely want to say hi. And then we have Apostle Christopher. Christopher. This is when I can't just and his beautiful wife, Prophetess Reese. I want to. You can't see her too much because I know that we're in a different kind of screen. There you go. So when you guys talk, just shift over to the next screen so we can see each other. But introduce your guys' selves. What is wrong with me today?
Calm down, Tanya.
We're excited. I'm Apostle Chris. I'm senior pastor at Spirit and Truth Kingdom Ministries here in Canton, Ohio. To where with my wife, Prophetess Risa, we have about a combined maybe 30 years in ministry. We do marriage counseling, pre-marriage counseling, and marriage counseling. We do have a unique testimony as far as a God-ordained marriage that was prophesied, that was confirmed tens of times over. We've seen God be faithful to exactly what He's spoken, what He's promised. We each had our own individual process to prepare to be married to one another, and God was very clear during that process is that it would be His will and His work first. So even though I enjoy being married to her, we know what it is, and we know we know why we're called to be together.
Amen. How's everybody doing?
Hello.
So I am Prophetess Risa Allen, also a Neora brand partner. I got into Neora. I fired my boss the end of 2018, my husband allowed me to share the vision, and I was able to come home and do this. We are a global wellness company. I sell holistic anti-aging products. It's from skincare onto wellness. We have 19 products. We are in over 12 countries and counting. Just something that I enjoy doing. I'm taking care of myself, taking care of my skin. Our mantra or motto is make people better. We have donated over 5 million to World Visions Network, and also Big Brothers and Big Sisters, or Big Brothers and Big Sisters. So just all about making people better. I enjoy helping people. I wear many hats, as I am we're in ministry together. I am a mother. We have a total of 8 children. I have my little one right here, who you hear in the background. Right now, I'm in school to be a pastry chef, and this is I'm on 12 weeks of baking bread. So just doing that and just enjoying life. So it's just good to be on this platform with everybody. I feel blessed.
I love it.
Reese, I'm gonna need an order of that bread.
After the fast. After the fast.
Yes, I'll be making challah bread this week.
After the fast.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, and then we have a wonderful guest, Pastor Tammy Smith, minister. I know her as Pastor Tammy, as my first mama in like me birthing into knowing God, and wow, it's really cool to like be on a platform. I'm gonna get emotional, but
don't really do cool. That. Don't do that.
Man, we're like the Xena and Gabrielle. We had some fun times. We were pretty goofy, but we have a blast, and we're gonna do so much more together. And she actually, her husband, Pastor Larry, actually married my husband and I. So that was a cool thing. So introduce yourself, because you have some really cool stuff happening.
Well, after listening to her, I don't feel like I'm doing anything. So bless you for all 8 kids. I mean, you deserve a spot in heaven just for that. But anyway, my husband and I, we started Church on the Rock back in '96. However, we've been ministering since 1990. We got born again in '87 and felt the call of God on our lives pretty quick, and started with Bible study and all that. Just evolved. You get your license, you do that for a couple years, then you get ordained. And so that's kind of where we started. And we ministered all the way up until last year, 2019. We had closed the doors to that chapter because several reasons, but one of the main reasons was because God was leading me to do different things within ministry. Namely, I'm not a counselor because I'm not licensed, but I do counseling. In fact, I have a huge activation training this weekend with Restoring the Foundations. So when I complete that and pass all of that, then I will be an issue-focused minister, which literally gets people from the foundation of their hurts and their sins of the fathers and demonic oppression, all those things. And we start at the foundation and we get them free so they can actually fulfill the call of God on our lives, that they can actually fulfill John 10:10, where he gave us life and life more abundantly. So I'm super duper excited about that. I plan on taking it to the highest level within Restoring the Foundations to become an actual Restoring the Foundations minister. So there's different levels you have to go through, but it has been a journey and it's different, and I'm excited about it. And I appreciate Tanya inviting me on here, and I can't wait to meet more people and connect with more people.
Awesome. So I wanted to do just a quick round. I know that everybody got introduced, and like I said, it's really wonderful to have the wisdom that we have on this platform, on this interview today, because the knowledge base mixed with that spiritual base is very powerful. And I don't think that we look at the medical aspect of things like trauma and grief and enough, and bridge it, the medical science, with the Word of God, so where we can understand that we're in this world, and that we don't try to counsel in marriage in such a surface way. So I'd love, before we have tons of questions. I mean, just some of the questions to get you like guys thinking. So many people it's beyond me actually, how many people are asking, what does a healthy marriage look like? They don't even know, because they came from divorce homes, or their father leaving at young ages and things like that. And just, they don't know. And then, do you have to build the same thing when you're married? Can your husband build one thing and you build another, but still be in agreement? How do men lead a Proverbs 31 entrepreneur, especially when they have not been taught or fathered on their own? So like there's so much, so many questions. I mean, is it possible for a husband to not let his insecurities or male dominance get in the way of his wife's success as a breadwinner? I know a lot of women are launching businesses right now. They're launching, and God's really using it. I mean, you see prophetic words all over the place, right? Women rising up, men of valor are rising up too, I believe, but women are really stepping into the marketplace heavy right now. And they're having to fight, that understanding of, having a healthy marriage and not sacrificing both, right? So I wanted to be able to put this together, because I believe it's important that we have healthy marriages and healthy families at home in order to have healthy businesses. Because we have a lot of coaches, business coaches, people rising up, and they're having to they can't just deal with just the entrepreneur. They have to deal with the person as well. And many are not trauma informed, which I believe all entrepreneurs that are coaching anyone should be trauma informed. They should have an understanding of what people go through naturally. So before we get to those questions, especially this one, how to reconcile and build trust again in a marriage. You guys all have amazing stories. So I'd like to, we can go back around like we did before. Apostle Brian, and then I see, and then we'll just go to Pastor Tammy, and then we'll go to Apostle Christopher and Prophetess Risa. So can you guys just briefly just say, you've been married. What has that looked like for you in the sense of just showing us a background of your experience? I know there's been highs, there's lows, in anything that we do, right? So,
right.
Apostle Brian, what can you speak on that subject? Your testimony.
Well, out of my testimony, excuse me, I'll take you to the beginning of how I believe that you should find a spouse, right? Because I know that in today's time, we're looking at attraction. We're looking at everything physical. That's the mindset that we have. If she or he is meeting my needs physically, and a lot of times what ends up happening is that we leave out the aspect of seeking God first. The principles of God from my experience is that out of Genesis, the 2nd chapter, where it says that the Lord brought Eve to Adam.
Right.
Adam was going about his daily chores, his daily business, and the Lord brought Eve to Adam. And that's how my experience happened. I was fasting for 30 days and excuse me, and just seeking the Lord on what's next. not on a wife, not on anything. I wasn't there. I was just wanting his will. What's next? And he began to tell me, he began to show me on the 27th day of the fast that my wife would be my wife. And I didn't even know my wife. And so, long story short, he put us together. And so when you talk about coming from a perspective of biblical marriage, I believe that's how that he intends for us to, be joined together. So.
Pastor Tammy.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, so thank you, Apostle Brian, for that. That's I didn't have the privilege to pray because I didn't know to. However, the way we were brought together was still quite supernatural. I think the biggest thing for us, because we've had some great times. We've been married for 32 years, more than 32 years, actually. And we have definitely seen and shared and experienced some ups and some downs and some very challenging times. And I think that had we had some decent counseling, like premarital counseling and what to expect. And we were brand new in the Lord. We were just I've never been to church my whole life until I got born again in 87. But so I didn't know anything about anything. So being able to get into a marriage and get born again and blended family, I had a 10-year-old and a 13-year-old that I now had to take care of. I was barely 21 to begin with. So I had a lot of challenging things that I didn't know. I didn't know I was going to, be challenged with all these things. So I jumped in with both feet like a, ding dong. So anyway, I wish that I would have had some, premarital counseling. However, thank God we're still here, we're still alive, we're still kicking. I think I would say to people who are going to get married, make sure, in addition to what Apostle Brian has said before, as you're praying, make sure that person can actually fulfill the role. And I've noticed in some of these couples, they're so blinded, like, oh, well, God will just show us along the way. And that is partially true. But man, you got to get a solid foundation first. And if you don't see that person can even fulfill their role just as a simple man or a simple woman, not even including all the other stuff, man, you're going to have some challenges that you're going to wish you just never would have stepped into it like you did. But make sure that person can fulfill that role. Can they actually be the man of the house? Can they take charge when they need to take charge? Can they learn? Can they submit to one another? Can the woman submit? Can the man submit? Can they do all of those things? And I think that's really, really important to know what the role is, what the role of a wife is, not according to the world. The world's got all kinds of stuff you can pick and choose. And I mean, Lord have mercy. It's no wonder we're all a mess, a hot mess, a lot of them. But according to the word, it's got to be according to the word. That's the foundation of everything. So just make sure they can fulfill that role, or look into it anyway.
And can they handle, what do they look like under stress? You know what I mean? Because when you get into a relationship, everybody has their makeup on and their pretty face on. Right. But after when you get to a place of struggle, you begin to see a person for who they really are.
Right. That's right.
Very true, very true. The last thing you want them to do is run under pressure. So
right.
All right. Let's see. I'm going to put Apostle Christopher and Prophetess Risa up at the top. So go ahead and just quickly tell us your story and just one word of advice as far as, marriage.
My experience with marriage, this is my second and final marriage. And I had a marriage before that was very functional. It was a very functional marriage. It worked, you know what I mean? And there was not a lot of fighting and things like that. But that marriage was not God ordained. And so, once it came down to it, it failed. And it was a marriage that many people considered successful. Many people were envious of it. And so I decided at that point, it was never in me to give up on love. I desired to have my heart matched, but I did decide at that point that I was going to work on myself and allow God to lead me to my mate. Amen. And so, years later, that's when, Carissa and I were introduced, and that is an amazing, full, rich testimony in itself. But I'm a witness that God's way is just so much better. He knows exactly what you need, who you need. We think we have these types. We don't have types. Types get thrown out the door whenever God ordains you to who He has. He knows exactly what's best for us. He knows how to fit and fill our strengths and weaknesses. He knows um, how to how to pick the person who will complement you perfectly for marriage. And so when you talk about what a functional marriage looks like, many marriages can be functional. They can look good on paper. My first marriage looked good on paper. It was not ordained. It was not God ordained. And we're talking as believers. And so there is a much higher standard when you're talking about what God is ordained and what God requires. And so for me to be a man of God back then, even this very functional marriage on paper was just not good enough. Now we're able to see, the fruits of just being led by the Spirit and allowing God to choose the most important aspects of your life. I believe a functional marriage doesn't have a specific look to it. It can be different for different couples. But one thing I will say is that it needs to be engaged. You can't have a husband and a wife existing in their own spaces all the time. You would definitely see constant cooperation. You'll see a prayer life. You'll see them living life together, whether it be ups or downs. It will be very clear that this couple is in it together.
And I need to just put it out there that it's not perfect all the time. And we came into a lot of misconceptions. That I heard before I got married was that you're going to be two healed people when you get together, but that's not true at all. I came into the marriage still broken from my past. He came into the marriage still broken from his previous marriage, and it takes a lot to become one flesh. It takes a lot of coming together and a lot of process and a lot of work. And I remember just going through so much in that first year that the Lord allowed me to see a vision of just rocks and rubble. And it looked like something had been torn down. And God began to speak to me. And He said, well, what do you see? And I said, I just see rubble. I see stones. I see all this, debris. And He said, that was your foundation. He said, but the latter shall be greater than the former. And so he had to build it up brick by brick, so that we will be able to stand, or else it just would have been a disaster, because, the enemy hates marriage. And so you already come into marriage and it's already a fight. And so you have to just grow together. I heard somebody say one time that, there's a difference between a wife and a helpmeet. You become a wife when you say I do and you get the ring. That's when you become the wife. But it takes some tests, it takes some trials, it takes a lot to become a helpmeet. You have to learn him, you have to learn your spouse, and whether you can mesh well, whether you fit together, what are you bringing to the table. So it takes a lot. It takes a lot to become that one flesh.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Thank you so much for that. And it is very true. It takes a lot to become one. we kind of, I think we tend to look over the marriage vows, till death do us part, better or worse, and all that. And we think we're just in the better part for most of the time. But, it just because you have Christ in your life doesn't make things easy. You still have work to do.
Right.
I love that picture though of the rubble and then the foundation, because that is true. We come together, but for the most part, you're picking apart a lot of that stuff and getting a solid foundation in order to be able to build. I used to hear everybody say, what, marriage doesn't start till like year 10 or you don't know your spouse till like you've been married for at least 20 years. And it's so funny because it is true. We're growing so much, and who you were in your 20s when you get married is not who you are in your 30s. And you start thinking of new things, and God starts doing a new thing, and you start transforming and transitioning and pivoting, and all this stuff starts happening, and you actually become an adult. And then it's like you're kind of like learning marriage all over again at that point, So I know some of the questions that we have is, and anybody can kind of respond. We'll just keep it, like I said, maybe 2 to 3 minutes, just really quick going around. So how do men lead a Proverbs 31 woman? How does a man lead a Proverbs 31 woman? We understand that in the Proverbs, she was very entrepreneurial, right? You can see her in government and just at home, just everywhere. She was doing business. But how does a man lead a woman like that? Because she's very masculine in the workforce. She's powerful. She's doing her thing, right? And then she comes home. And then sometimes I've heard men intimidated, or they just don't know how to really handle a woman like that. Or a lot of times women don't know how to turn on the feminine when they get home. I've heard that as well, where they're able to receive. So, Pastor Tammy, why don't you take that one, and then we'll go to Apostle Brian.
Well, I think one of the things you had just said about not being able to turn on that feminine once you've been out in the workforce, you got to know your hats, and you got to know when to put them on and when to take them off, for sure. And that's sometimes difficult for women. But I do remember a time where being a pastor, you get in that mode because it's 24/7. You're a pastor all the time, because people are always pulling on you and asking you things, and you've got counseling and studying. And so one of the things that my husband and I, we had really struggled at this for a little while until a bright light bulb finally turned on. And it was finally like, if he would call me, I would have to ask him, am I talking to Pastor Larry or am I talking to my husband? And so I knew how to respond. I knew how to communicate, and then vice versa. When he would call, he said, he'll say, okay, I want to talk to my wife. And so I had to get in wife mode. And sometimes that was hard to do because I was so involved in what I was doing as far as pastoring at that moment. And I don't know if any of you are like this, but I can't stand to be interrupted when I'm in a flow. Don't interrupt me. Let me stay there for a while until I'm finished, So that was a real challenge. It was more of a challenge for me than it probably was for my husband. But you do have to know who you have to be wherever you're at. You be work when you're at work, especially if you're independent. I mean, I'm probably one of the most independent, headstrong women my husband's ever met in his life. So he didn't know that in the beginning, though. So we should have had some counseling for sure. But you have to really be able to fill so many different roles and be able to do them well. But you know what? It takes time to do that. And if you can learn just to be patient, make room for mistakes on both sides, you'll be okay. You just gotta talk it out and say, hey, I didn't like the way you said that, or can you get the Bible out of the bed? I've had that talk told me many times. Get rid of your computer, get your Bible out of the bed right now. I'm like, but I'm studying, So I'm just making it real. I mean, that's just how it was here, So I had to learn that, because when you get in that mode, for me, I like to stay in that mode until I'm satisfied that I've completed whatever mission or project or assignment that I was working on. So, we had to learn to get all the Bibles, the computers and the study Bibles and the books and the whatever out of the bedroom. Keep them in the office,
Boundaries.
Boundaries. Exactly.
Love it. Awesome, Brian.
Yeah, I agree with Pastor Tammy. As you know, daughter, we have my wife is a Proverb 31 woman, and entrepreneur and business minded, and all of everything you can possibly think of is a blessing to have been blessed by the Lord with her. And so, but it was also a challenge because I wasn't used to that type of woman. And so when she comes with all of this knowledge and experience and entrepreneurship and all of those different things that make up who she is, it was challenging for me to understand her, if you will. Excuse me. So what I went through was a time of becoming confident in who I am as a man.
Right.
And I think that's the key thing you need to understand is that you can't a Proverbs 31 woman, an entrepreneur, cannot have an insecure man. She has to have a man who is secure in who he is and secure in who she is, and have that understanding. She has to be able, like Pastor Tammy said, to be able to take off those hats. Each one of us has to be able to take off our hats and become what our spouses need us to be in that moment. Because if not, that's the fastest way to ruin your marriage, your relationship. And so if you don't know how to separate the office, the ministry from home, you'll run into great trouble.
Yeah.
So I'm going to switch it up a little bit. Apostle Christopher and Prophetess Risa, I want to ask you, because it's around the same lines, right? So we're talking about, yes, leading in the homes and a male leading in the home and so on and so forth. And you can touch on that briefly, but what does that look like when you're serving also in ministry and you're serving in business? Because that becomes pretty difficult. I've heard men say that they feel like their woman is married to the pastor, right? Because they're serving or they're armored, like however that functions. So there's different demographic, there's different things that individuals are involved in, right? So you have that entrepreneurial woman, but 9 times out of 10, she's also very much involved in ministry if she's a woman of God. So that becomes a little bit even greater, right? Because now she's serving at this capacity in the marketplace and volunteering and doing all those things that the woman likes to do. I'll cook, I'll do this, I'll volunteer, I'll clean the bathroom, whatever it is. So take it from that perspective, leading a woman.
I think it needs to be said. It also needs to be said that being a woman in herself, a Proverbs 31 woman, is empowered by womanhood. A woman doesn't have to try to mimic characteristics of a man to be empowered when she understands what a biblical woman is. That identity in itself is empowered. And I mean, you see the entire book of Proverbs, in the Old Testament, where the spirit of wisdom is likened to a woman. Now that's a big deal when you think of the Holy Spirit as a helpmeet to God function. And so the woman is extremely capable in her womanhood. And so, we're talking about a society that empowers women to try to be like men because they don't understand the power of a godly woman. Other than that, as far as how to lead a Proverbs 31 woman, we have to, as men, we have to be their biggest fan. I remember when, when Carissa was considering joining Neora, I was the one who kind of drove her to do it. It was, at the time, it was an investment. The company didn't call for people to just kind of be able to throw some change in it. They wanted to see the commitment, and we didn't have it. But then you understand investment. I mean, if you're going to put in the work, then you're going to be worth the investment. And so I believed in her. I knew that if she did it, if she was just set up to succeed. And so I encouraged her to do it. When we got the money, I'm like, just go for it. You're set up to succeed, because I know that if you do it, you're going to run the business. You know what I mean? And that's me knowing her characteristics, knowing her gifts, her talents, knowing her drive, and knowing that I wanted to bring her home so that she could be a homemaker. I knew that she would find her way, but she's never been able to do it in her whole life, being a single mother. And so, with this Proverbs 31 entrepreneurs being so empowered, I believe men often we forget that this woman is still a woman, and that she needs certain things biblically from a man. And so just because she's empowered doesn't mean she doesn't still need to feel loved. She still needs to feel protected. You know what I mean? Just because she has to be strong on the exterior doesn't mean that she doesn't still need to be nurtured and cared for, and these things that women naturally need. And so you can't take her strength. To mean that she doesn't still need these things. But I agree with Apostle Brian. He said you can't be an insecure man. You have to be her biggest fan, and you have to root her on. You have to do what you can to help her be the best she can be, because her success is literally your success as well. So you want her to make it.
And Apostle Chris, is it okay to piggyback off of that? I think when we read Proverbs 31 and we get this idea of a Proverbs 31 woman, I think a lot of times it's a setup for failure for the woman. And I say that because I think a lot of times that women think that they have to be this all right now. And when I read this, it's different seasons to me, different seasons of their lives that they develop and they grow into, because you'll stress yourself out trying to be this person all right now. You know what I mean? And I think it becomes the development of the Holy Spirit in your life. And it's something like Apostle Christopher said earlier, that there's really no set standard for a great marriage. Well, I say that I use that right here as well. There's really no set standard for this Proverbs 31 woman, because she comes in different shapes, sizes, and ideas and packages. And everybody won't be an entrepreneur, but that does not disqualify them from being a virtuous woman. And I think that's the key text. But if you're looking at it from an entrepreneur perspective, then in trying to do all these things and accomplish all these things, you'll drive yourself crazy trying to do it in a short period of time.
Yeah.
I love that you said that, because, I hear this all the time, because, when you look at what everybody senses a woman needs to be, she needs to be this. At this point now, she needs to bring in income for most households, right? So she needs to work in some way, and then she needs to be the mom, and she needs to be the wife, and then she needs to, so we tend to lose our identities as women. And then when we're going through that journey, trying to understand, well, okay, well, how do we know when to do this and when not to do this? And while we're juggling, past traumas, molestation, and domestic violence, or daddy leaving, or mom on drugs, or whatever, we're trying to do all these things. And I remember, there's a lot of times it's always like, you have to also be your family's strength. And then, So you can't show that you're emotional. You can't show that you're hurting or this or that, because you gotta be able to pick up. You don't have time to grieve. You don't have time to do anything. You have to get everybody situated and make sure dinner's good and all this other stuff. Wipe your face and you know what I mean, and kind of move on. So I love the fact that you brought that on, because it's not easy, and we go through stages. And I think throughout marriage, you're becoming the you know, in so many ways, you're becoming that daughter of God. You're becoming a woman. You're becoming the Word. And we already know to become the Word is very difficult, right? As we're becoming on a regular basis, trying to look at the Word and, okay, God, I got to get it in here, and okay, it's over here, and it's over here, and it's slowly coming into the heart, right? Like it's slowly getting there. It's not quite there yet. So, you know, you're always trying to work on that. And I hear this from women that I coach every single day, and they're like breaking down and crying because they would love to just go home and have their husband love on them and make love to them and say that they're proud of them and all these things. But they're like hearing, well, why aren't the dishes done yet? Or, you know, is dinner done yet? Or, you know, those type of things. So I'm really glad that you said that, because I believe, like what you said, there's stages of understanding and surrounding yourself with wisdom and sound counsel is super important. So
What he says.
Go ahead. Somebody said something.
I think he gave us in Proverbs 31, verse 10. He says, "Who can find a virtuous woman? For her price is above far rubies, and the heart of her husband safely trust in her, so that he has no need of spoil, and she will do him good and evil all the days of her life." I think that is foundational, so foundational when you start talking about becoming a Proverbs 31 woman. This is the first thing that he lays out, or his mother lays out to him about this virtuous woman, is that her husband can safely trust in her. That's and you're talking about, we said it earlier about excuse me, about the foundation of marriage, and I think it was a prophetess Risa that said that she seen what looked, or in a vision, what the Lord showed her to be different cracks and things of her past or whatever, or the marriage. But God will not allow you to build anything when you have a marriage on a cracked foundation.
Right.
That foundation must first be healed and sealed, if you will, and then before he can start putting or building what he plans to build on it. And if you don't have that solid foundation, it won't support what God is trying to do, and then the glory of that thing.
I can definitely agree with that. I think that what I've seen is that men struggle to realize that the more that they're pouring in to that woman, they're allowing her to actually be that woman that they're looking for.
Sure.
So it was really interesting. I remember this apostle told me, he said, I can usually tell a marriage because I can usually tell where the husband is at by the reflection of his wife.
Mm-hmm.
So by looking at his wife, he can actually tell where that husband's spiritual walk is, right? And a lot, unfortunately, of the women are really the spiritual leaders of the home at this part. I mean, they're really the intercessors of the home. They're really really tilling the ground and pushing forth in that perspective. And you know, I'm excited to see a turn in that, because I don't believe that strong women desire to be as strong as they really are. I think just the cards that were dealt, we have to. So Pastor Tammy, can you start? And then I'd love for Prophetess Risa to chime in after this. But one of the questions were how to reconcile and build trust again in a marriage.
Excuse me.
Well, what are they reconciling from? I mean,
It was a
I mean,
question. Anybody
you know,
ask the question? Let me
yeah, if
know.
anybody wants to answer that, I
Any
mean,
questions?
that's a big one. I mean, you gotta, gosh, I'm not even sure how to answer that exactly. Let me think about that. How do you reconcile? You go see a minister from Restoring the Foundations, that's for sure. like we did. Um, you don't know. You don't know what's in you sometimes, and you don't know what's wrong with you until someone can reveal those blind spots. You got to be open and trust God for your life. You got to know that reconciliation is possible, that God is willing and able to bring restoration. But at the same time, everybody's got to be in agreement with that. Everybody's got to be on board. Everybody has to engage. It can't be just one person, saying, hey, yeah, let's do this, while the other person's on the fence. You have to really know and have a relationship with God, that He can show you, the future, if you will, with the two of you. I don't know. That's a really hard question, because I know it's all possible. I've been through my own series of reconciliations, and I'll tell you, having someone show you what's wrong with you, not what's wrong with the other person, but what's wrong with you, and you taking that personal responsibility to fix what you can fix, whether they ever get fixed or correct anything or not. Because at the end of the day, I'm still going to be me, and my relationship with God still has to be intact. And it's one of those things where you got to really trust the Lord, and you got to be willing to put the work into it. I mean, I hate to use the word work, but maybe investment would be better.
It's work.
It does feel like work, but there are times where I have worked and worked and worked, not just in a marriage, just in anything. And God pulled me aside one day and said, daughter, I need you to be more like Mary and not so much like Martha right now. And I realized, wow, and I think that's what a lot of times as a Proverbs 31, we look at that list of stuff that we can do, and we go to work. And we're working 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 at it. I'm going to work myself to a Proverbs 31 woman, and really you're working yourself to death almost. And God is saying, hey, I need you to draw away and be like Mary. Martha was, the story, Martha being in the kitchen, and she's doing all the work, and she's fussing and complaining to Jesus about Mary, not helping out. And what did he say? He says, hey, she's doing exactly what she needs to do right now. You could probably learn something from her right now, stop your complaining and go join Mary. But, there are seasons of that. So there are seasons where you got to be Martha, and seasons where you got to be Mary. But you've got it, you got to be willing to accept your vows as much as you can, regardless of what the other person, does. Put the investment in and trust God with the rest of it. I just remember God telling me in the very, very beginning of my marriage, He said, you do what you're supposed to do, whether He ever does what He's supposed to do or not. And so, because God was building me, He wasn't building me and my husband, He was building me individually. And so I was going to become a better person, and a better wife and a better mother and all that. So as far as reconciling, you have to determine how much you're willing to invest or sacrifice or work at it. But I believe it's absolutely possible. But I think everybody's got to be engaged.
I think something that you said, can you turn me down a little bit? I don't know if it's too loud. I know one thing that you said that was really important in that as well is how much you're willing to actually change yourself. I remember going to counseling and it was like, you're thinking you're going to go and you're going to talk about that other person, right? Well, he hurt me and he did this to me. And then you get this slap in the face like, yeah, but you, and then it doesn't work, because if you're always feeling like you're on the fence, you're protecting yourself and you're on the defense all the time, you don't actually want to hear anything about yourself, because you're just like, yeah, but if he wouldn't have done this, I wouldn't have reacted this way. And so a lot of it is that big of, being able to swallow that pill of, okay, I have ego, I have pride, I did this, I did that. So yeah. Acknowledging one another's pains. Prophetess Risa, I wanted to I'm going to give you this question because it's somewhat of the same, but in the chats somebody asked, what do you do if you just didn't know certain things, and then now you're in a marriage and you're going through this right now, so you're launching your business, you're doing the things that God is telling you to do, but you also have the head of your home, right? You also have your husband. So now you're torn in between. So what do you do now?
Are they asking about whether to start the business or
as far as a man
the
being
balance?
able to lead, as far as being led by a man who's willing and able and secure, because I know one of the other questions I think from the same person was the male's insecurities when the woman makes more money. So, it's overall, what do you do when you're already married now and you're in this covenant and you do love the person, but I mean, you have to try to figure out what you're doing.
Yeah. So one thing I like about the Proverbs 31 woman is that she is a woman of wisdom. And it talks about all the things that she did, but she didn't do all those things in one day. The Proverbs 31 woman was wise, and she knew what season she was in, and she knew how to operate in those seasons that she was in. She's also, when we're married in the kingdom, when it's a kingdom marriage, we understand our role as a wife. Our number one role as a wife is helper. And so when we are doing things that's going to help push and propel our husbands into that, into their purpose, because that's what God has called us to do. He wants us to be a helper into pushing him into that role. And so whatever you're doing in your business, being an entrepreneur, doing it at home, doing it unto God's glory, but also doing it so that you can make that man look good and whatever area or platform that he's on. And so knowing what you were created to do and then doing it, and then just moving in those aspects and just fulfilling that role as wife, because you don't want to do anything that is going to take you outside of the home, because then you're out of order. You're out of order when it takes so much time out of your day and to where you're not taking care of the home. A perfect example of this in submission is when I started a childcare business inside of my home. I talked to my husband and I wanted to bring in some extra income. And so, he allowed me to do this. Well, I had four kids that I was watching at the time, and they ranged from a baby on to age 3 years old. It took so much out of me and so much out of my time that we were having chicken and pizza almost every night, because I was so tired and so drained after trying to take care of all those little kids. I'm bringing money into the household, but it was just stressful. It wasn't worth it, because now I can't fix my man and my kids nutritious meals, and the house was a mess and I was so tired afterwards. And so just being able to have a conversation with him and him understanding that, yeah, you're bringing money, you're bringing income into the house, and I'm glad that you're doing your gifts and you're working your business, but look at the home. And so being able to submit and coming to him and hearing his input and just being honest with each other and saying, is it really worth it? And so, you can't do anything that's going to take you outside of the home, out of the purpose, because your purpose as a kingdom wife is to make that man look good and to be his helpmate and to push him into the place that God has for him. And so we're not, when we're being an entrepreneur and doing those things, we have to have balance and making sure that, is this the best thing for my household? Is this the best way to honor my husband, to honor my marriage, and to honor my Lord?
Amen.
Now, I have a question in the comments, but I'm also going to I'm going to answer that. Which, Pastor Tammy, I'd like for you to do this one. She said, "What's your thoughts on separation due to alcohol and drug addictions?" I'm assuming. I mean, when you get to alcohol and drug addictions, abuse could possibly be involved. Is that something, Angel? I know Angel commented. I'm not quite sure. Is there abuse involved at all?
Well, there's nothing wrong with separating due to alcohol and drug addictions. You got to think of safety. You got to think of legalities. You have to think of, what's this going to do to your finances? I mean, it depends really on how deep they're into it and how dysfunctional the person is. I deal with people that are addicted to drugs and such. And it's a very ugly and hard thing. Separation doesn't mean that you're not supporting them and you're not still in their corner. But sometimes, depending on the situation, you have to remove yourself for safety reasons. You have to remove yourself so that you don't get yourself caught up in it. And it's hard. I mean, it's not easy. Drug addiction is not easy at all. For anybody involved. I've been dealing with it for quite some time, not with my husband, but others. And there's a safety factor there. There's a safety factor there, and there is a legality factor there. What if they put it in your car to stash it, and then you get pulled over for speeding or running a red light or something like that, and then they're going to find it in your car? There's a lot to think about. So there's nothing wrong with that, as long as you let them know that you're there for them, you want to support them, you want to help them get the help that they need and try to push them that way. The worst thing we do is enable. And we do it out of a great heart. We do it out of love. We do it out of, meaningful. It's very meaningful, but it's wrong. And it makes it worse for the person that's struggling, because they're never going to get that help. I mean, I had to do that with my son when I finally kicked him out of the house, instead of trying to, groom him back into, the reality and the way it should be. And sometimes you do have to get that tough love out. And if that means separating to protect yourself and to protect your children if they're involved, protect your job. I mean, there's a lot involved. So it really depends on how detrimental the situation is as well. So, I mean, I wouldn't say just because they get drunk every other weekend or something like that you leave them, but it depends on what's going on. Like you said, is there abuse? Is there, I see there's a lot of bad decisions. I mean, these are things you have to, find out what those decisions entail. If it includes your finances and things like that, I mean, is it going to put you out of your home? You got to be tough. If you got to take money out of your account and stick it away somewhere and make it safe, I mean, you got to do what you got to do sometimes to survive that. And it's not to be vindictive or ugly or anything like that, but it is to keep you safe and hopefully to turn them around. That's the whole point of it. I don't know if that helps.
Can I chime in on this?
Yeah.
Because I came from that world over 20 years ago. when I was in my 20s and early 30s. So the flip side of that coin, Pastor Tammy gave you the side of the person who is being the recipient of the person who is the addict. So let me speak from the mindset of the addict. The addict does not care about anything but his mistress,
Right.
which is his or her addiction. That addiction has such a stronghold over their lives that you can, Pastor Tammy, I'm sure that you have spoke with your son concerning these things, and he didn't hear anything.
Nope.
Because it's filtered through the addiction, and
right.
their hearing is incorrect. You can't hear anything except for what that addiction is saying. You can't think anything except for what that addiction is saying. And so a lot of times it's just a broken conversation, if you will. But let me tell you this: it's no holds barred in addiction. What I mean by that is that anything goes. So that person who is the addict will do anything they can to get that addiction or get that satisfaction or gratification out of that addiction for that moment. And so that's the mindset of a person who is an addict, and they're not going to change until they're ready to change.
Right. You can't make them change, and you can't make them want to.
I think that goes for anyone.
Right. That's true.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so I do have a question, and anybody can answer. What are your thoughts on the man being at home while the woman is out there being the provider and running the business? I can say that I've heard a lot of women, and sometimes it just really rubs me the wrong way. But when they're like, I'm trying to get my husband off his job, and I'm trying to and like they're stepping into this provider role. I mean, I don't know. I can understand the thought process, but Apostle, you look like you about to.
Come on, bring it.
I know, right? Okay.
Well, you talking to a man's man here. So when you talk about the woman being a provider, the main provider, that kind of just goes against what I know as a man. And then I look at it from a biblical aspect as well. Adam got into trouble when Eve brought him food. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. There was a perversion of roles, if you will, where he was supposed to be the provider, and here she brings him the apple. So that's just my take on it. It's nothing against being a entrepreneur woman. I don't even have a problem with my wife making more than me. That would not be a problem if that were the case. I'm secure in who I am, but there's just some things that I believe that I'm not going to let you go out and go to work and come back and look at me crazy laying on the couch.
You better not be laying on the couch.
No, don't get me wrong, because there's if the man is taking care of the house and he's cooking, he's got the kids, that's and you guys work that out. You guys agree to that. But there's a very thin line of what I call a pimp mentality. And so when we start talking about the Proverbs 31 woman and all that, and I look in to see all that she does, and then I see her husband is just sitting at the gates. I'm like, wait a minute, that sounds to me like that's a pimp. And you know, I'm sorry, that's just I'm just you know, I'm just giving you what I think. I'm from the hood. You know, and I'm a pastor that's from the hood. I came up in the hood, so. But you have to be, in my thinking, you have to be very careful when it comes to that, because it's like I said, if you I see a lot of people, men, not just young men, but old men who are quote pimping their relationships, their females, you know, and it's just it doesn't sit well with me. I'm sorry.
Yeah, if I can add to that, yeah, no. I can see maybe
He's a man too.
maybe temporarily. I mean, you just never know what's going on in somebody's, maybe a temporary situation to where, you know, something can be worked out. We've done that before. We did that a few years ago when I wanted to start off college going full time, and we were in a position to where we could do it. It never sat well. It was necessary for maybe like that first semester, but we got out of that mode real quick. Yeah, no. Proverbs 19:14, it says, "House and wealth are inherited from fathers." Amen. But a prudent wife is from the Lord.
That's right.
You know, and there, you know, the Bible says if a man doesn't work, he doesn't need. There's just this theme, and you know, we're given scripture, and we're given a lot of hints, but then the entire framework of family that just doesn't agree with God's construct and function as far as a man and a woman and the family structure. There's just no way it fits. And I know this is the 21st century, and many women would like this man that they can kind of sit at home and watch and take care of him and keep the eye on him and make sure, you know, where they think he need to be and all this other stuff like that. It's like Apostle Brian said, you have to be real careful. It's a slippery slope. I've seen this and the dynamic. I've never seen this happen with a healthy dynamic to where that man is actually being or what he refers to as a man's man. The roles have been switched, and a Proverbs 31 woman is going to want a king. She's going to want a high priest. She doesn't want she wants him to be Abraham, you know, where she can call him Lord. You know what I mean? And so a Proverbs 31 woman, if she's functioning that way, this is a very strong woman who does not want a son as a husband. It just, there's just no way it fits, you know. And we did have a discussion about whether men are okay with their women being the breadwinners in their households. We had that discussion, me and some other Christian men last week, and I like the way that question came up. And most of these men were explicit in saying that they wouldn't like it. Now there's nothing scriptural that would say that there's anything wrong with. I mean, you know, this is one of the things to where the world is different, and so you can very well have situations to where your wife is the primary breadwinner of the house. That's very normal, and it's I don't think that's an abnormal thing. Many men, and admittedly so, will attribute it to ego, how they don't want the woman making more money than them. And I know men that are in this situation, and they don't try to stifle their woman, but it does cause them to try to work harder. I personally, I would not mind if Carissa were the primary breadwinner. Like I said, if she's winning, I'm winning. But I do have this preference. If it was up to me, she would not have to bring money into the house to help me take care of her. and that's a personal preference. So my standpoint was like, I want you to be able to do, I want you to be in a position to where you have the time to be full time, whatever you want to do. But I would like to be able to provide for you and the children without your help, to where what you bring in is extra or excess, and that's just a personal preference.
No, yeah, I mean that makes total sense. I hear a lot, just studying and looking at marriage, and what was something interesting that you actually said was that a woman doesn't want a son. But it's so funny how we actually can treat a man like a son and not a man.
Mhm.
We can do that very, very, very easily, on top of the fact that they might not notice it because they're usually enabled by their mom. And so they haven't actually cleaved from their mom. They haven't cleaved from their father. Most of the time it's their mom, right? Because they've been with their mom. There might be a single mom. They have this attachment. They feel like they got to be there and take care of their mom and do all that. So they never actually really leave their mom. And then, and then the woman naturally does the nurturing and caring and the baby thing because she doesn't want that man to leave. So, you start to kind of, it's that slippery slope. But I see Prophetess, I see her like, no, hold on, let me say something.
Can I speak?
There you go. Go for it. Yeah, go.
Yeah,
Anybody.
I think that society has tried to emasculate man as it is, and to allow the woman to take the lead in that role would be further of the same thing, emasculating the man. And so I think that in order for a man to be a man, he has to fulfill that role. That's just the generation I came up in. So
Yeah.
Did you have anything, Prophetess, you want to say?
Just was thinking about what happened in the garden, when the woman took the leadership role. What happened then? That's why we in the mess we in right now.
I know that's right.
All right. Well, I'm very excited that I got to, hopefully that we got all the questions. I had a bunch here, and then I had a bunch here that I was writing down. I was getting emailed, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to get all these questions. Hopefully we've answered all of your questions, or they've answered all your questions. If you have any more, let me know in the chat really quickly. But if you guys want to just take a quick, 2-3 minutes, just kind of sum it up as far as, any part of the discussion, just kind of closing everything out. We talked about a lot of different areas in general. So
I'll go.
Okay.
Going back to the relationship thing, I wrote a few things down as you guys were speaking. The question, I believe, had to do with the reconciliation in a marriage or anything. And I think the thing that you have to identify is that something's broken. I mean, if there's going to be any reconciliation between two people, they have to identify that something's broken. And unfortunately, a lot of times people come from dysfunctional backgrounds, and they give when you give a sense of love, or you want to love somebody, is from a dysfunctional place. And so
Right.
I learned how to be dysfunctional from the parents that I had or didn't have. And so when it comes to bringing my dysfunctional love, or my idea of love, to a relationship, I'm giving you dysfunctional love. And if two people come together under that dysfunction, then they don't really know that anything's broken. And so I think when you talk about repairing or a relationship, somebody has to identify or they both have to identify that something's broken. Reconciliation, you have to, if you're going to reconcile with your spouse, it has to come from a place of personally identifying that my marriage is important to me. If it's not important to, if it's not important to you or to both of you, it will not, it won't come to a point or arrive at a point of reconciliation. All right. And here's the last thing. It's your job, your duty to make your spouse secure in that marriage. It's your personal job and duty to make each other secure in that marriage. So let me say one more thing. If you have a spouse that is insecure, then you have to figure out how to make that spouse secure until they become secure. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Amen.
We can do Apostle Christopher and Prophetess Risa, and then Pastor Tammy.
You know, when we read 1 Corinthians 13, it never gets old. It not only defines love for us, but it gives us all the aspects and intricacies of love. There's nothing in 1 Corinthians 13 that can't be applied to marriage. It's not boastful, it's not envious, it's not puffed up, it doesn't keep record of evil. All of these wonderful things about the nature of love. And so love needs to be not just the foundation, but the binding agent. It needs to be the covering. It needs to be the walls. The decorations need to be laced with love. And it's not just love that exists. I like the way the King James uses the word charity. Charity is an active word. It means you're doing something. It speaks to giving, not, love like we understand in English is a thing. Love is not a noun. Love is it's a powerful essence, and it speaks to action and being deliberate about something. If we can allow love, starting with the love of God, through Christ. If husbands will love their wives like Christ loved the church, and understand that love is not just something that exists, but it's something that's lived and breathed. It's active. If we can keep that mindset, we can apply to any aspect of marriage. And so, just to wrap up, I will say, when you're talking about a woman who is epitomizing her godly womanhood, you have to understand that the two are not one flesh, and that her success is my success. I need her to succeed, or I fail as well.
Sure.
And so when you understand those two main things, then you will do everything you can to not only support but strengthen her, and and be the type of man who can not just lead this woman, but cause her to flourish. I like the way Tanya said earlier. You can look at a woman and tell what type of man she's married to. Men should be able to see their women grow in confidence, and their countenance needs to change over years, and you literally watch them become more beautified, more stronger, wiser, and all of these things, and it needs to be directly tied to your influence in their lives.
And if I might add anything, just speaking to how a man is to lead a Proverbs 31 woman and entrepreneur. Just basically, we need our husbands to be who God created them to be, and just know that that we are one flesh. And when I do good, when I win, we all win. And I need him to know, that when a woman goes into the marketplace, there's adversity, there's warfare. Women already, marriages have a target, are targeted by the enemy, but a woman, because God even said in Genesis that he'll put enmity between the serpent and the woman, and between his seed and her seed. And so it's already warfare. And so just needing him to be who God created him to be, needing him to be a covering, to be, the high priest of the family, the household. Pray for me. Hear what God has, put in his ear. What is he speaking about me and my situation, and just uplifting and encouraging, and just being there for one another. That Proverbs 31 woman, it said that she would do him good and not evil all the days of his life. And just knowing that we're in it together. Amen.
Amen. Amen. I like to always speak to the women mainly, but I just want the women to say, hey, just be who Christ has designed you to be. Let's quit watching Desperate Housewives and get pumped up full of worldly ideas to make us look better. You know what I'm saying? I mean, for real. and to make us look better, you are fearfully and wonderfully made. Stay in your lane. Stay in your lane. And, as far as the working thing, I'm all for women being entrepreneurs and being all of that, as long as their motives are right. If you're going out there just to prove something to somebody or prove something to your husband, or that you're better than this, that, and the other, then I think you need to go back into your prayer closet and do a checkup from the neck up, and check yourself before you wreck yourself, and just be real before God. Be real before God.
Do you see why you guys mesh so well?
The women have, to me, the women have gone out of control, and I would love to see them come back, to their Father God roots, the way that he designed them to be. And I think if you can look at your spouse as a partner and not as a competitor, I think we can see things and work together in a greater capacity, so ditch the Real Housewives, the Desperate Housewives, or whatever it's called. I think it's called Desperate Housewives. That should give you a clue right there. We're not desperate people, ladies. We are strong. We are brilliant. We are anointed. We are appointed, and we are called by God to do great things. You are destined for greatness. So go be great.
Amen.
Amen.
I see Angel in the comment. She's like, "Dang, no more Real Housewives."
No, Angel, not in Atlanta, not in LA, not in Virginia, nowhere.
Hey, we're going too fast. You shouldn't be doing that anyway.
Tell her no love and hip hop and none of that.
That's right. Get out of the clubs.
Oh my gosh, some of the shows out here are crazy.
Oh dear.
Well, I guess you become what you eat, right? So be careful.
That's right.
Well, I appreciate all of you. Oh, hi.
There's my little peanut, my little nugget. Yeah. Yeah. This is my granddaughter.
I'm waiting for Mr. to join the club then, because he's feeling left out. All right. So I am so glad and thankful that you guys came on to speak about this. We'll definitely, I'm sure, have to touch this again as we get more questions. Like I said, one thing that I've realized is she's fasting from the ratchet. What is that? That's a show that you watch? We have bigger problems now.
Oh no, we're calling a prayer meeting next time, Tanya.
Seriously,
and Angel's coming on it.
Lay hands.
We need you, Angel.
Like I said, a lot of these other. What did you say, Dad?
She's talking about everything ratchet.
Literally. Now she's laughing. But what I've noticed is, again, as you'll see some of these, a lot of individuals are like, well, what does this have to do with business, Tanya? And the reason why I brought it up was because as I've stepped back on the scene from into business, God showed me that I'd have to deal with the family, because I can't, the successful entrepreneur starts at home. They can't build a successful business, 6, 7, 8 figures, and leave their family and their spouse and all that, and not tend to the house, not just be on calls and all that stuff and chasing and serving. And it's kind of put in the name of, right? I'm answering the call of God on my life. That's why I didn't put my kids to bed and I didn't feed them dinner and I had to, all this stuff,
Right.
So we have responsibilities. We decided to have a life. We decided to get married, have children, and bless you. So what I've noticed is we have to address these issues. So I'm so grateful that I have individuals like you in my life that can come on and answer questions and get a multitude of wisdom and counsel as we're in building businesses in the marketplace and doing what God has told us to do. We all want to be able to hear, well done, right, thou good and faithful servant.
Amen.
And I always thought it was performing in business and being successful and making an impact in the world. But, later on, it really is just a matter of making an impact in your family, raising, little human beings and, that are going to be successful in the world. I guarantee you if that's all we did and we're faithful as, in our marriage and so on and so forth, we'd hear the same thing. So it's not about going out there and making money and forsaking our families and our marriage and all the other things that can come with it and overtake you. So again, thank you so much for coming on. And anybody can hit the subscribe button to any one of these amazing individuals and reach out to them. If you guys want later on, you can put in the chat, emails or whatever you guys want as far as how they can reach out to you. Especially, I know, Tammy, you're doing Restoring the Foundations, and you'll be able to counsel individuals. So we love you.
Thank you, Tanya.
Thank you. Thank you.
Tell BJ we say hey.
Right. She's trying to
Shout out to BJ.
Hey.